The wake-up call. Most people want more out of life, more money, more freedom, more purpose. But when you ask them what they really want, they freeze. They hesitate. They throw vague answers into the air. I just want to be successful. I want financial freedom. I want to be happy. And that's the problem. Not because those dreams are wrong, but because they are unclear. Vague goals produce vague results. And life doesn't reward vagueness, it rewards direction. Clarity isn't just a nice thing to have. It's the first gate to any form of transformation. The harsh truth is this: you cannot hit a target you don't see. You cannot attract what you haven't named. And you cannot become someone you haven't imagined. This is why most people stay stuck. Not because they're lazy, not because they lack talent, but because they're foggy. They're mentally scattered, emotionally distracted, and spiritually disconnected from what they really want. That fog creates indecision. Indecision becomes inaction. And inaction kills possibility. So this is your wake-up call, not just to dream again, but to dream on purpose. Because if you don't take full authorship of your life, someone else will. If you don't set your own direction, the world will hand you one. Usually one filled with stress, comparison, and survival mode. Here's something few people ever admit. You don't need another motivational video. You don't need another podcast or productivity hack. What you need is a clear decision, a stake in the ground, a single sentence that defines what your life is about from this day forward. A written statement that becomes your compass. That's the whole point of this message. You're not just missing strategy, you're missing certainty. And certainty doesn't begin outside. It begins the moment you sit down, put pen to paper, and say, "This is what I want. This is what I will give. This is when it will happen. This is who I must become." That's the line in the sand. Everything else, the money, the freedom, the focus, flows from that act. The moment you define your desire clearly, the fog starts to lift. And when the fog lifts, you start to move faster, sharper, with more alignment. Opportunities you used to ignore suddenly stand out. People sense your confidence before you even speak. Life begins to respond to you because you finally gave it something to respond to. This is not about fantasy. It's not about wishing or manifesting in the empty sense. It's about taking ownership of your direction. It's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't drift, who doesn't doubt, who doesn't delay their own destiny. But that begins with a choice, a clear one, a written one. Everything else is just noise until that's done. Because until you decide, nothing moves. And once you do, everything changes. You're one written statement away from changing your life. The invisible enemy, vagueness. We live in a world where people are constantly setting goals, but never actually changing. They write lists, they make vision boards, they say the words, someday, hopefully, when the time is right. But nothing happens. Why? Because the enemy isn't laziness. It's not lack of potential, it's vagueness. Vagueness is the invisible enemy of all achievement. It's the silent killer of dreams, because it gives you the illusion of progress while keeping you stuck in the same place. When your desires are vague, your actions become scattered. When your intentions are unclear, your energy is divided. And when your goals are foggy, your future becomes random, ruled by whatever life throws at you, instead of what you intentionally build. You can't aim at more money. You can't strategize around someday. You can't schedule a better life. The mind does not move toward blurred pictures. It needs form. It needs shape. It needs specificity. That's why the 6-step method works, because it forces you to destroy vagueness. Instead of "I want to be rich," you say, "I'm going to earn $100,000 by June 30th of next year by offering freelance video editing services, and I will start building my portfolio immediately." Instead of "I want to be happy," you write, "I will live in a quiet seaside town, working 4 hours a day remotely and spending my mornings with my kids. And to do that, I must replace my current income by building X." Now it becomes real. Now your subconscious can work with it. Your emotions can attach to it. Your behavior can align with it. But until you make it real, your brain doesn't take it seriously. And if your brain doesn't take it seriously, neither will your actions. Let's be blunt. You are either designing your life with precision or you're reacting to life with confusion. You're either leading it with intent or drifting in default mode. And default mode leads to the same cycle: motivation, delay, distraction, guilt, repeat. The power of clarity is this: it shatters the loop. Clarity is more than a productivity hack. It's a mental shift, one that removes noise and aligns everything: thoughts, time, focus, energy. It doesn't just change your goals, it changes your decisions. It changes your discipline. It changes your identity. And it all starts with one act, turning your vague desire into a written, definite, committed decision. That decision cuts through the fog. It tells your mind this is real. It tells your behavior this matters now. It tells your soul we're finally moving. You'll know when you've made that kind of decision. Everything starts to feel urgent, but in a good way. Like life is waiting for you to meet it halfway. And when you do, you stop hoping, you stop stalling, you stop being a spectator in your own story, and you start becoming the author. One statement, one decision, one moment of clarity. That's the weapon that defeats vagueness, the power of writing it down. There's a reason the third step in Napoleon Hill's formula demands you write your statement. Not type it, not think it, not casually say it. Write it down, physically, by hand with intention. This isn't just some outdated motivational advice, it's backed by how the brain works. When you write, you're not just capturing thoughts, you're clarifying them, you're organizing your inner world and commanding your subconscious to pay attention. You're telling yourself, this matters enough to move from my head into my hands. Writing does something no thought can do alone. It creates ownership. Until it's written, a goal is just a wish. It floats, it fades, it changes shape depending on your mood. But once it's written, it's anchored. Now it can't hide behind excuses. Now it stares back at you. Now it demands action or honesty. That's why so few people do it. Most people keep their dreams in the fog because fog feels safe. Fog doesn't ask for commitment. Fog lets you pretend you're planning when really you're avoiding. But writing is a mirror. It forces you to look at the truth. Ask yourself, what exactly do I want? By when? What am I willing to do for it? What's my actual plan? If you can't write it, you don't really mean it. Let that sink in, because once you do write it clearly, boldly, without shame or fear, something shifts. You no longer just want money or success or freedom. You're declaring it. You're owning it. You're stepping into the mindset of someone who expects it. The world responds to that. Your habits respond to that. Your life begins to respond to that. You start noticing things you missed before, opportunities, connections, insights. You start taking small steps without forcing yourself, because your mind is now wired toward the outcome. You stop negotiating with distraction, because the goal is no longer optional. And all of this begins with writing it down. Not a paragraph, a clear, concise statement, one that answers 4 key questions. 1. How much do you want? 2. When will you have it by? What will you give in return? 4. What's your plan to get it? Direct, powerful. Here's an example. I will have $100,000 in my account by June 30th, 2026. In exchange, I will provide high-ticket coaching to 50 clients, charging $2,000 each. I will build my audience through weekly YouTube videos and daily outreach starting now. That's not a hope, that's a mission. And once written, it becomes the center of gravity for your decisions. You know what to say yes to. You know what to avoid. You wake up with direction. You move with focus. This is not magic. It's not manifestation. It's mental alignment. And most people will never experience it. Because most people will never write their goal down. They'd rather keep it safe in their mind, where it can't be judged or tested. But you're not most people. You're here because something in you is ready. So grab a pen, open a page, and begin writing the version of your future that will no longer wait. One statement, that's all it takes to start. The time lock, why a deadline changes everything. Time is the pressure that turns potential into power. That's why every dream without a deadline is a fantasy. Deadlines make things real. Until you give your desire a date, it's just a story you tell yourself, a someday that never shows up. But when you put a clock on your goal, everything changes. It's not just a wish anymore. It's a mission with a timeline. It's a contract with your future. Why does this matter so much? Because the human brain responds to urgency. Deadlines trigger focus. They kill procrastination. They activate the part of your mind that stops making excuses and starts making moves. Think about it. A vague goal, like I want to make more money, never stirs your soul. But I will make $50,000 by December 31st creates a fire. It has a window, a ticking clock. You know what's coming. You can feel the countdown. And here's the thing. When the brain feels time running out, it gets creative. It starts making connections. It starts solving problems faster. It starts removing distractions, not because you forced it to, but because now it has purpose. A deadline gives you permission to stop waiting. It tells your mind, we don't have forever. Let's move. And that movement creates momentum. But here's what most people get wrong. They fear the deadline. They say things like, What if I don't make it? Isn't that too ambitious? What if I fail? But the deadline isn't about pressure. It's about presence. It keeps the goal alive in your mind. It reminds you daily that this isn't just a vague idea. It's a real outcome that matters to you. Even if you miss the date, you'll be closer than you ever would be without it. Progress beats perfection. Momentum beats waiting. Movement beats dreams on pause. Set the date, write it down, say it out loud, because once your goal has a timeline, your life starts organizing around it. You begin to ask smarter questions. What can I do today that moves the needle? What's wasting my time? Who can help me get there faster? You stop saying yes to everything and start protecting your time like your future depends on it, because it does. And one more thing, deadlines teach you to trust yourself. Not everything will go as planned, but every day you show up, despite the doubt, you build grit. You build belief. You build a version of you who follows through, even when it's hard. That's how transformation happens. Not just by setting the goal, but by committing to the clock. Because time waits for no one. And when you set the time, the countdown begins. That's when everything starts to change. The exchange principle, what will you give? We live in a universe of exchange. You never get something for nothing, and that's a good thing, because it means the life you want is already within reach, as long as you're willing to trade for it. This is the part most people skip. They write down how much money they want. They set the deadline. They even say it out loud, but they forget the most crucial law of success. Every gain requires a give. If you want wealth, what will you offer in return? Not just in thought, in action, in value. What skill will you master? What solution will you provide? What energy, time, creativity, and service will you bring into the world? Until you answer that question clearly, your desire remains incomplete. This is where dreams become deals. It's where you say, in exchange for this financial goal, I will give my full focus. I will study the skills that matter. I will serve my clients with excellence. I will create things that solve real problems. This isn't sacrifice, it's alignment. You're aligning your energy with your ambition. You're showing the universe and your subconscious that you're not just a taker, you're a creator. You're willing to build something that matters. And here's the twist. The more specific your give, the more likely the gain. Vague intentions like, I'll work hard, won't cut it. That's like saying, I want to lose weight while eating cake in the dark. What's the work? What's the value? What's the channel you'll deliver it through? You must define it, because once you do, a powerful shift happens. You no longer feel like you're begging the world for success. You start to feel like a partner in the process. You're not hoping anymore, you're offering. You've entered the exchange. This one shift will change the way you look at money forever. Money isn't something you chase. It's something you attract by the value you create. Your job now is to decide what that value is. And when you do, everything else begins to take shape. Suddenly, you know what to focus on. You know what to say yes to. You know what to stop wasting time on. Your goal becomes a business, not a daydream. So ask yourself, what am I willing to give in return for the outcome I want? Write it. Commit to it. Remind yourself daily. Because clarity on the give creates power in the gain. You're not wishing anymore. You're working the law of exchange. That's how wealth becomes inevitable. The plan is the proof. Act before you're ready. Here's the mistake that quietly kills dreams, waiting until the plan is perfect. Let that go now. You'll never have it all figured out. You'll never feel fully prepared. But the moment you take action, even a small one, you prove something vital. I'm serious. The plan isn't about perfection. It's about intention with movement. And yes, you need a plan, but not the kind most people think. Not a 50-page document, not a spreadsheet full of predictions, not a pitch deck or a color-coded map of the next 5 years. You need a real-world plan, a plan that breathes, one you can start today. Because action beats anxiety, action beats confusion, action beats the endless cycle of thinking without doing. Here's the truth. Your plan doesn't need to be brilliant. It just needs to begin. Let's break this down simply. You've declared your desire. You've named the amount. You've set the deadline. You've chosen what you'll give in return. Now comes the ignition switch. What is your first visible move? Start that, then adjust, build while moving, learn while building. This is how real success happens, not in some private strategy lab, but in the arena. Planning while acting isn't messy. It's how momentum is born. Remember, you don't have to know the whole staircase to take the first step. You don't need permission. You don't need credentials. You need a decision backed by movement. Here's a powerful truth. You can reverse engineer your belief through behavior. You may not believe 100% yet. That's okay. But when you act, your belief will start to catch up. Confidence grows through evidence, and your action becomes the proof. So stop waiting for the perfect time. It doesn't exist. Instead, do this. Write down 3 bold moves you can start this week. Choose the one that scares you a little and start there. Track your progress, adjust your aim, and keep going. Because once you're in motion, the universe pays attention. And what was once a goal in your head becomes a path under your feet. The plan is not just a map, it's a message. A message that says, I am not playing, I'm building this now. And that changes everything. Speak it into existence, the power of repetition. You've defined what you want. You've made your trade. You've given it a deadline. You've even started before you were ready. Now comes the most important and most overlooked part, repetition. Not of action, of belief. Because action begins the journey, but belief finishes it. Most people skip this. They write the goal once, they speak it once, then they forget. But your subconscious doesn't work like a drive-through. It needs consistency. It learns by pattern, and repetition is how the mind rewires itself. When you read your statement aloud every morning and every night, something begins to shift. You stop sounding like a stranger to your dreams. You start feeling the reality, not just saying the words. Doubt weakens, certainty grows. Think of it like sculpting. Each repetition is a strike of the chisel, softening disbelief, shaping your inner world until your outer world has no choice but to follow. As you read, see, and feel and believe yourself already in possession of the money. This isn't fantasy, this is mental programming. It's how world-class performers condition their minds for results before the results arrive. Why does this matter? Because your brain has a mechanism called the reticular activating system, RAS. It filters information, it decides what gets your attention. And when you repeat your intention, your RAS starts scanning the world to match it. You begin to notice opportunities you once missed. You feel bolder making decisions. You attract clarity, not confusion. The world starts reflecting what you've been rehearsing internally. So what exactly should you do? 1. Write it. Your full statement, the amount, the deadline, what you'll give, and your plan. 2. Read it aloud twice daily. Once in the morning, once at night. Stand up, speak it with energy. Let yourself feel it. 3. Visualize while reading. Imagine the goal already fulfilled. What do you see? What do you feel? What has changed? 4. Do it daily, without fail. Not for motivation, but for reprogramming. Because repetition isn't about hype, it's about identity. When you say it enough, you start to become it. And once you believe it, the world begins to bend. Not magically, not instantly, but reliably. Because now your belief and your behavior are aligned. And that's when goals stop being wishes and start becoming results. This is the formula. Now it's your turn. Let's bring it all together. You've been given the map, a 6-step formula that transforms desire into results. It's not fluff. It's not wishful thinking. It's structured, tested, and deeply human. It starts with clarity, knowing exactly what you want. Then moves into exchange, deciding what you'll give to earn it. Next is urgency, setting a deadline, followed by execution, acting now, not waiting. Then comes strategy, writing it all down in vivid detail. And finally, belief, speaking it, visualizing it, owning it every single day. That's the blueprint. And here's the truth. Most people will read this and nod, then go back to default, back to drift, back to maybe someday. But not you, because if you've read this far, something already shifted in you. You're not satisfied with hoping. You want to build. Start today, not perfect, but in motion. Start with one line. I am so happy and grateful now that I have. Then fill in the blank. Make it real. Make it yours. Read it, believe it, act on it every day. Because success doesn't respond to talent. It doesn't respond to luck. It responds to clarity, commitment, and consistent belief in the goal you've claimed. You don't need more motivation. You need a mirror, and in that mirror, you'll see the person who's about to make it happen. So go. This is your formula. Now it's your turn.